So from Paul right here, what if Sony actually invested in Bungie instead of decimating it? Okay, Paul. All right. It's going to be like that today. Hold on, let's pull this up. Sony bought Bungie for $3.6 billion with entirely unreasonable expectations. The plan, it seems, was the assumption that A, Destiny 2 was given in terms of printing money indefinitely. B, whatever Bungie made next, namely Marathon, was sure to be a breakout hit. And C, Bungie could mentor a half a dozen big Sony single-player studios in terms of how to make and run a successful live service game. It's insane to think that they believed that would all play out exactly as expected. Pete must have been a hell of a salesman. All right, he didn't get all those cores by accident, okay? Hey, it was well known that Destiny 2's huge Light and Darkness saga was about to end with the final shape, and sapping resources from the game would result in less content and, of course, fewer players thereafter. B, regardless of Marathon's current or future quality, expecting that any multiplayer game, especially one that's a new, quote-unquote new, IP can most definitely explode into the market is not remotely reflected by reality. And C, there is no magic button in terms of how to make a successful live service either. In the most famous example, Bungie consulted with Naughty Dog about their Factions multiplayer game. They explained to them the type of commitment it would take to make and maintain something like that, and Naughty Dog just didn't want to do it in favor of their own bread and butter. So it was canceled, and Bungie was blamed despite consulting the exact way they're supposed to. And the conclusion in the wider market has always been, don't force talented single-player game studios to make multiplayer games, and this was aligned with that. Yeah, I mean, dude, Naughty Dog is good at what they do. Single-player driven games, that's what they should do. You know, Sony got into this real big push. They wanted to have, you know, I can't remember how many live service games, but they wanted live service after live service, and Bungie was going to be the guiding hand for all those live service games. And we saw this in the, the panel there from Justin Truman years ago, where he essentially talked about the almost death of Destiny and how they made their comeback, and essentially all the ways in which you should and you shouldn't develop a live service game, which is not really working out too well for them right now. Bungie has endured cut after cut, even in the wake of a successful make or break launch like the Final Shape, which put up player count records after 10 years of the series' existence. Instead of continuing to drive momentum from there, Bungie has been slashed multiple times to the point where the amount of content the much smaller team can put out is not pleasing its player base, which is fleeing rapidly. Second, the $3.6 billion deal was structured so a number of executives or long-serving Bungie vets would get millions, if not tens of millions, when their part of the deal vested after a few years. That may be fair given their history and the size and the scale, but it has also bred complacency, which is apparently apparent within the company as they just sat around and waited for the payouts. Now, let me just say, from what I was told, some people in leadership, after the deal was done with Sony, they just stopped interacting with the teams. They pretty much pieced the hell out, and they waited for their dates for when their stocks would vest, and they bounced. They cashed out, man. There ain't no other way to look at it. Some of the best leaders Bungie has had lately were not veterans, but given the state of everything, most have moved on rather quickly. So I think what he's really talking about right here is the team that led Final Shape. Some of those individuals you saw come, you know, Joe being one of them, but they came forward, you know, or essentially departed after the Final Shape. Who wouldn't do that? All right, listen, man. And let me just say, some of these guys got, when I say millions of dollars, we're talking like 50 million plus, okay? You can take your payouts, but there's no reason why you should leave a freaking dumpster fire behind you. You see where I'm coming from? Why not take your payouts and still get it there, keep cooking alongside the team, keep pulling your sleeves up and doing the work? For whatever you want to say about Tyson Green, I know a lot of people are not a fan of Tyson Green right now because a lot is being put on him. A lot of the blame is being put on him about Edge of Fate. And yes, he is the game director, but he's been there for decades, and I'm sure he's got a massive payout, but the man gets in there and has been rolling up his sleeves every expansion. I put it to you like this. As many times as we've been to Bungie, I've seen pretty much the same individuals outside of the few that have departed, but pretty much the same individuals, except for all the folks that were very high up on the totem board, very high up in leadership, who pieced the fuck out after the deal with Sony. But let me just say it like this. I never met Pete once. And I don't know if I'll ever meet Pete. I don't know if, you know, we're at a convention in the future and Pete might be there. But at Bungie itself, the CEO, I never met once. Whereas if you go to like Digital Extreme or something like that, you'll run into Steve, man. I mean, immediately. And this is the same with a lot of different companies. Game development companies. Whether anyone wants to admit it or not, Bungie is still Sony's best shot at making a mark in the live service space. Yes, the biggest success recently is Helldivers 2, but Arrowhead is bailing from the Sony partnership for their next game, which they will self-publish. Sony has run into a wall after wall with its live offerings. Concord is the biggest failure of a game launch of all time, no exaggeration. There is almost zero chance something like Fair Games is actually releasing with that studio falling apart. So yes, almost by default, Bungie is still the best. I put it to you like this, because people have been saying for a long time, Sony needs to take over Destiny, and this is the thought process that I've heard. I'm not even gonna say no one at Bungie said this to me. Okay, so let me just hear me out on this. Sony can take over Destiny, but who the fuck is going to dev it? You know where I'm coming from? You still gotta have someone dev the shit. So Sony can go in there and lay everybody off. But if you're gonna run a live service game or make a D3, if that's something you want to do, you still gotta have someone cook the shit. Or they can use AI. Oh shit, that could be the thing. That could be the thing that's going to happen with everyone. Obviously, Destiny 2 is still declining in quality to this day, but at least a large chunk of that is the slashing of resources and revenue demands from the game. Fewer devs make less content. Decimated QA means more bugs more often, and overall, the lack of any breathing room for Destiny to take a break and come back with a game that would be a success several years down the road. Destiny 3 is a huge issue. Sony gives Naughty Dog 5 years to make a new 40-hour game. Why does Destiny have to be ground into dust as a series with no time to regroup and truly evolve? Paul, I get where you're coming from, but I have to just bring this up. Sony was expecting industry leaders in the live service space to come in and to guide their other projects, Concord included, and they were expecting Marathon to be ready to go out potentially by 2024. Disregard the art scandals or anything like that. Like, don't get me wrong, the art scandal is a big deal, and it is a big deal. I think that was probably one of the biggest contributing reasons to why the game got delayed. But let's be real, guys, it needed to be delayed. If that game had rolled out in September, it would have just got clobbered, dude. Those numbers would have looked awful. I'm not going to say it would have been Concord awful, but it would have been awful. And then Arc Raiders would have cleaned it up here with its launch coming very soon. Probably at the time of this release of this video, Arc Raiders is already out. Now, as for Marathon, I have my doubts about its future, but Sony cannot pull another Concord here no matter what. No matter the initial player count, Marathon has to be given time to grow, learn, evolve, and add new content over time. It's already done so between alphas, and it's easy to see potential for it to expand even beyond just the extraction genre, if given the time and resources to do so. I don't know if it's going to expand beyond the extraction genre. I think Marathon, at least from what I'm hearing from the internal playtest right now, it's leaning more into the extraction genre. And so where it was trying to be almost like an extraction light, it's going more into that. You bought Bungie for $3.6 billion, have demanded unreasonable things from them, and hacked away at their ability to build anything. This is not excusing leadership laziness or a large number of mistake devs themselves have made, but Sony's role in all of this has been almost nothing but negative. And I have to wonder what might happen if they threw more resources at Bungie rather than taking them away constantly. Look, I want nothing more than for Bungie to have all the resources they can possibly have, and for Destiny and their team to grow, and for them to cook more Destiny. I would love nothing more than get to the point where we were with Forsaken, where we got, multiple raids in a year, multiple dungeons, and constant content rolling out toward us. And yes, you are not going to succeed with Destiny by getting in there and just trying to cheap your way through. We see those numbers being reflected right now. It's not working out. At the same time, this is a lot of goddamn money. You know where I'm coming from? That is a ton of money. If I gave you $3.6 billion, I'm going to ride that ass. You hear me? I'm going to be calling you every fucking day at 4 in the morning. I'm going to be like, hey, what you doing with my goddamn money? You making it right now? You got a lot to return here, motherfucker. I be calling you at dinner. Where you at? Are you eating right now? How long you been eating? It's already been 25 minutes. I'm going to call you back again here in another 5. You better be back at the office. I'm just saying. I would be riding that ass. It's hard. I get where Paul's coming from. And I want Bungie to have all the resources, but I'm sure Sony right now is kind of looking at the situation going, how the fuck did we end up here? I'm sure they're like, wait a minute. We were supposed to have Destiny 2, Marathon, Gummy Bears, potentially Destiny Payback, which Sony could have been the one that canned that deal. But who knows? Concord was supposed to be thriving. You know what I mean?
Slap that like button like your mama told you right.